the Miami Dolphins, you wrote a full article about them this morning. What inspired the article, and what's the road that we're going down here with Miami?
Well, what inspired it was when I saw Tua. Tua played last year. He played in all 18 games, and at the end of the year, they did not play well. 2 years. They are, since week 13 of the season, the Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniel's direction is 4-10 since week 13 in both years. And so they faded, and they faded because they got a lot of guys hurt on defense. Bradley Chubb, Phillips, they were a shell of themselves when they played Kansas City. But when you look at the end of the year, their offense wasn't very good. And then I saw the picture of Tua, and I just thought, why would a guy who stayed healthy for the first time in his career change what he was doing? What is he up to? And I've heard a lot of different reasons. I can't prove any of them. I didn't include any of them in the article, off the field, what's going, none of that, right? So, but there's something there. And then when you peel back the layer about Miami and you say, okay, where can they duplicate the success that they had last year? Are they going to be able to dominate teams like they did last year? And you start looking at it, knowing they're going to pay Tua in the mid-50s per year, you realize that this team may be having the arrow pointed down. And I wanted to really get into why Vic Fangio left, because I think there's a couple things here that are going on, right? I think when you're the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, it's hard. It's a challenging job because Miami is a fun place for a young guy with a lot of money to live, lots to do. And if you read the quotes by the players about Vic leaving, and if you read what I included in the article, what Ron Jaworski said, who's very close friends with Vic, is it was hard to have accountability under the Mike McDaniels scheme. Mike McDaniels is not really the head coach. He's the offensive coordinator who's in charge of the coaches. But he has no real involvement in special teams or the kicking game or actually defense. None, actually. This will be his third defensive coordinator in 3 years. Yep. So things are changing. So I wanted to kind of peel back that. And the Tua picture really sparked, as I said in the article, 1,000 words.
So let's go deeper in on Tua here real quickly, because for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, he showed up to a media event recently at minicamp yesterday as well, talking to reporters. And he is noticeably significantly thinner than we saw him last year. He was listed as 6'1", 227. He looks sub 200, and it's not something that we're just noticing. His teammates are calling it out as well. Here's Tyreek Hill on Tua's new look.
I ain't gonna lie, when I see Tua at the Pro Bowl, I was kind of scared. Dude was but, he was fat, he was chubby. I was like, hold on now. Bruh. Hold on, bro. Ryan Clark said you were kind of thick. Now, he wasn't lying, but seeing him now and where he's come from and how skinny he has gotten, what's that stuff with everybody taking? Ozempic? He had to be taking that, bro.
And Jalen Waddle today said, I miss chubby Tua. I didn't like it when I seen it. I told him I'm not bleeping with it. Eat some more or something. So I think what happened was, it got maybe a little too out of hand, right? Last year, he really focused on the durability, being bigger, being stockier, being able to take some of those hits that he was taking because he had so many injury issues and concussions in the past. I think now he's turned the dial a little bit too far, and I understand wanting to be more agile and being able to be quicker and evade some of those tackles. But I think that it's gone too far. It's a little bit much. Whereas Lamar Jackson losing weight, you're like, man, this guy's already so fast, and he's shown that he can hold up a lot better now, and he can avoid those hits. I'm not sure it's the same situation for Tua losing this weight.
No, and we know this. Last year, everybody thought one more concussion, Tua was going to retire.
Correct.
I didn't include it in the article, but there was a whole off season where if Tua got hit early in the year, he was contemplating retirement as it was. Now, we haven't heard that retirement talk. Of course, $50 million per year can keep you away from talking about retirement. There's no question. But I think the Tua picture started me down a road of investigating this team. And the fact that McDaniels is 4-10 since week 13, 2 years in a row, the fact that the players embraced and celebrated Vic Fangio's departure, the fact that Anthony Weaver comes in with no real experience coaching the back end. They hired Joe Barry to help that. They named him run game coordinator, interesting. But if you look at what Anthony Weaver did in his first year as defensive coordinator of the Houston Texans, now they weren't very good. They were 30th in yards, 27th in points, 32nd in creating interceptions, not good at all. The work's going to be challenging. You know, you can laugh about Vic being old school. You can laugh about Vic working him too hard. But Vic understands what it takes to be a good defense. And you can make fun of him all you want, but he's more right than the players are going to be right. And I just think, to me, that this is a situation why they're 4-10 is because their head coach is kind of going to be what we call a player's coach. Just let them do what they need to do. We'll outscore people. And then let's go back and look at it, right? So let's visit week 13 of this year. And you go back and see where they have. They start with the Packers. Cold weather game, Green Bay, November. Come home and play the Jets. All right, they go to Houston. The dome will be closed. No big deal. Play San Francisco at home. They end up with Cleveland, cold. I can promise you that. The Jets, cold. I can promise you that. And has anybody looked at Tua's numbers when it's 40 degrees or below? He's not good. He's not good. Like, they know it in Miami, he's not good. When this schedule came out, everybody in Miami, they'll never admit this, was worried because if they're in a race to go to Cleveland and to go to the Jets and they need both those wins, you could forget about it.
Yeah, lost 4 of their last 6 games down the stretch last year. And again, these are against good teams, too, that final however handful of weeks from week 13 on. And I've said this stat on the show before. I'm probably going to say it a number of other times before we get into the season. Against good teams, so we're talking teams 500 win percentage or better. I think that's fair to say. Tua had 22 touchdowns, win percentage or worse, against bad teams. Tua had 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. The team as a whole averaged 35.5 points per game. Against teams that are over 500 win percentage, they were 1-6 in those games. Tua had 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and the offense averaged just 16 points per game. So not only do you have, as you're talking about, cold weather teams, but good opponents that you're going to have down the stretch as well. That stretch is why they missed out on winning the division last year. I mean, the Packers, the Jets twice, the 49ers, the Texans, who we anticipate being really good, the Browns, who, yes, are a question mark, but on the road in prime time on Sunday Night Football in a tough place. Like, these are a lot of things that are important to keep in mind. So Miami's win total, 9.5. It is juiced to the over. So people are believing and buying in on this team that won 11 games last season. But just keep that in mind. Another thing I want to touch on here real quickly, Michael, because the Browns, who I just referenced, they evidently have given extensions to their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, and general manager, Andrew Berry. I don't know the terms or the length or the extent of it, but I find that a little bit interesting, given that Andrew Berry was there and responsible for the Deshaun Watson deal that could go down as one of the worst ever. So just give me your initial thoughts on this.
Well, I think the Haslam family is intimately involved, and so is Paul DePodesta, and I don't think that Andrew Berry drove that Deshaun Watson train all by himself. I think he was maybe the conductor, but he might have been a subconductor. I think there was more people on that than meets the eye. Paul DePodesta, Jimmy Haslam, D. Haslam, all the other people involved in the family. And I think, look, Kevin Stefanski's won Coach of the Year 2 of the 3 years he's been a head coach in Cleveland. I don't know what he's done a good job. They stripped him of his offensive play calling because they wanted to bring in a new play caller. They wanted him to go become a head coach. So I think what's happened is the Haslam family is very comfortable with the arrangement they have because they're involved. They're involved in everything, and they want somebody to run their team. DePodesta runs the football with Barry, and Stefanski runs the team, and they can still be involved without really making them aware that they're involved. So it's the perfect setup, and when you have the perfect setup, usually extensions happen.
Obviously won 11 games last year and went to the postseason where they lost to Houston in that first game. They've used 5 different quarterbacks throughout the course of the season. But I just keep coming back to 2 things about the Browns last year that throw me for a loop is the way their defense played at home versus the road and how dramatic of a difference that genuinely was. And the fact that they won all these games despite Deshaun Watson. Like, they actually were winning more games with him not on the field than with him on it, which is something that would concern me. Like, what version of Deshaun Watson are we going to be? Because if you're doing this, you're saying that, hey, Deshaun Watson, this is working out. This is a good thing.
And you owe him $120 million more guaranteed money, Stormy. I mean, you're not getting away from them. You're not getting away from them. This isn't like, okay, this is our last year. You owe them the money. It isn't the Russell Wilson. We don't want to keep paying the money. This is you're paying the money.